So, today we will talk about a topic that I'm really interested in, which is how Gen AI can help salespeople abandon fear based sales tactics. And the reason starts because of an old podcast I had with Matt Dixon a few months ago, and then we discussed a little bit like this kind of way of avoiding fear-based tactic. But now I was looking on the internet to figure out if there was a kind of technology who could help salespeople abandon these tactics, and then I, let's say, crossed Usman Sheikh profile on LinkedIn. I understood a little bit more about his reality, his the technology he's working on, and I'm happy to have him on the show today. Hi, Usman.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you indeed. So, Usman, just for the audience, if it's okay for you, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, because those who are
Yeah,
sales nerds know you for sure, like me, but someone else might not know you. So please feel free to tell us
yeah,
something.
yeah. So I am the CEO and founder of a AI-based software called XIQ. XIQ is a generative AI platform for B2B sales and marketing. We're one of the first companies to have introduced generative AI before the name generative AI was actually coined to this back in 2018. And we started off by being able to predict the personality type of people that you would be selling to. Because at the end of the day, sales is about people selling to people. And therefore, um, it was very important to uncover the code, that makes people build relationships and communicate to each other. So we looked into psychology, we found behavioral science, we built an AI algorithm that could actually predict the personality of who you were going to sell to. Prior to XIQ, my background is that of SAP. I apologize for this background noise a little bit, but it's with SAP where I used to be a vice president in product management. I was also building their digital demand generation channels for them, and and I worked for them 13 years in global roles. So I had the privilege of working with some of the best salespeople in B2B sales and seeing how they sold. And what I realized was that that was only 1% of the company that was the best salespeople, right? So how could my mind started thinking, how could we actually take some of those best practices and codify it so that the rest of the 99% could also benefit from the same things? And what we discovered, Tobia, was that it was a couple of things. They knew their prospects or the people they were selling to very well. Um, they knew the industry that they were selling to extremely well as well. And they knew the company. So they were really, really well versed. They were up to the mark. But the way they went about doing it is they had a big social network or professional network of people in management consulting, strategy firms, hardware firms, and they would consult all of them and work together. And this is a privilege that only the seasoned and experienced salespeople have. So, how do we democratize that experience and bring it to the next 99%? And that's the motivation behind XIQ. And today, it's a leading B2B sales and marketing generative AI platform.
Thanks for this, Usman. And I've always the same question when I speak to a founder, like the question is, how did you realize that it was a good idea? So what was your
Yeah.
gut telling you? You know what I mean? Because you had to make the jump. You had a global role as a VP in an established company. You could have done. You know what I mean? It was like life settled, enjoying the benefits of being an employee. But what made you make the jump? That's my question.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So I think my DNA is not the right DNA for people who take orders, okay, or work in a large setting where everybody takes the benefits of success, but nobody wants to deal with failure. So I wanted to do something which was my own. I'm a creator. I'm a designer. I'm an innovator. So I think along those times, and I wanted to be able to do this. But more importantly than that, that's just not good enough. All of us are like this. I think that at some point or the other, we want to be independent. We want to be standing on our 2 feet, but you've got to be pragmatic as well. And I saw this huge opportunity where, as I said, only 1% of your sales force is achieving their, above their mark. 30% of sales reps in a typical organization at any given time actually attain their quota or above their quota. That's very little. That means there's 70% that are not meeting their forecast. And the reasons are obvious, and they're becoming extremely obvious now because today everything has shifted into digital media. You receive emails as the mail way of communication, and what you see in that is that people are not able to communicate in a very linear manner. They're not able to communicate effectively, and they're sending a lot of stale stuff that does not work. And that's what inspired me. That there was an opportunity, and there was my personal desire to stand out on my own. I think the two combined together at the right time for me to start XIQ.
Got it. And the other question to a founder is what has been the biggest, or what have been the biggest challenges so far, Usman? Like, I mean, because you're pushing the concept of Gen AI into the sales environment, which is most of the time, let's say, resistant to change. So, in this environment, what are the biggest challenges you're facing nowadays?
So that's a great question. So I would say the biggest growth challenge that we face is hiring the right kind of salespeople, because the game of sales has moved on, right? It's the difference between playing soccer on grass versus playing soccer on astroturf, right? The speed of the ball, everything changes, right? And therefore, you have to adjust your tactics, your strategy to adjust for that. Same thing has happened in sales. The speed has changed. There are multiple decision makers. We have gone virtual. We're talking on Zoom and over virtual engagement platforms. It has become much more social selling oriented, and not everybody can adjust to that, and not everybody can. And the tactics of selling, right? We're going to discuss that about fear-based selling, which is something you said, versus hope, selling the future and hope, right? That's changed. So finding people who can adjust and accommodate to the new rules in the new environment of selling is a big challenge. And then on the other side, on the customer side of the equation, you know traditionally what has happened is that we have a hybrid sales and marketing technology environment, right? You've got, on average, a salesperson today has to deal with 12 to 16 different solutions to go from A to Z in their into their sales cycle, right? And you spend a lot of time just learning how to use a CRM system, a marketing automation system, a contact management system, and email writing capability. You're spending and how to do research, how to get signals of your clients. You're spending today 86% of your time on non-selling activities, right? So on from those companies have invested a lot of money in these platforms. So getting them to start thinking that, look, times have changed, and it's time to modernize your antiquated way of doing business, bring in new equipment, so to speak, in the case of manufacturing, for example, to be able to produce things faster, better, higher quality. You need to redo the plant, reset up the factory. And that applies to sales more so than ever. Generative AI and AI in general is entirely changing the game. And we happen to be one of the front runners in this, because what we are advocating and preaching is one platform, not 12 different solutions. One platform where you can get business intelligence, competitive market intelligence, where you can write emails and do outreach, where you can create business plan, you can do research, and you can do your marketing and so on, all in one platform. And that's a tall order for companies that have invested millions of dollars in these technology stacks that actually slow them down today rather than help them get accelerated.
Got it, and thanks for the answer. So, as you said, I'd like to to jump on the let's say the main topic of the conversation because you have an interesting point on this, and I want to know that point, ask questions, and even to give the audience something else. So, as I was saying at the beginning, a few months ago, I interviewed Matt Dixon. For those who don't know him, he's the author of several books, The Challenger Sale, and The Jolt Effect, and so on. And the jolt effect specifically is all about how to overcome the customer indecision. So, in the book, Matt argues that the FOMO, the fear of missing out, sales tactics backfire. So, when we say someone, if you don't do this activity, this action by the next month, you'll miss this percentage of discount. And when we do this, we install fear, which push the customer towards the status quo, which is basically one of the less effective things you can do in sales. And I want to know from you how you think that Gen AI can really, let's say, help to solve this issue or help educate salespeople to have a better behavior.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there are two parts to this equation. So first of all, I fully agree that selling fear is not an effective way of conducting business, right? Secondly, we have a mindset issue. So people are, again, the reason I have problems with hiring the right kind of salespeople is that they're all trained on selling fear for 30, 40 years. We've forever since we've known mankind doing sales, the create the fear, uncertainty, doubt has been a big tactic in how you sell. And it is not an effective tactic, especially now that you have AI. So let me explain a few things. So first of all, when we sell, we're selling to decision makers, senior level people, people that are asked to look at the future, ahead of the curve, over the horizon, right? So these are futurists, so to speak. They're not being hired and they're not hiring solutions for the punctures they have in their tire. They're looking at replacing the tire or replacing the car altogether. They're visionaries. They're looking over the future. So telling them, hey, this thing is broken is not an effective tactic because over and over we repeat the same thing and it's not aligned with what their personal objectives are and what their corporate objectives are. And the corporate objectives are that, let's look at the future. What is going to happen in the future? So, with that said, we need to look over the future. Now, how does generative AI? So that's the mindset issue, right? We need to understand that the buyer, the decision maker, is somebody who's not looking at solving yesterday's problem, but is looking at creating tomorrow, is creating the future, and that's very important. And that's a very, very difficult conversation to have without doing research, right? I don't know what the industry is doing. I don't know what your competitors are doing. I don't know what the technology is. I sell a horizontal platform that is for sales and marketing for biotech, for hardware, for cybersecurity, for sports companies, for fintech, all. It's unimaginable that my sales team can become experts in all those areas and come and tell you. This is where generative AI and AI steps in. So today, for example, our platform is such, it collects information on companies, it collects information on industries, and it collects information on individuals. And not only does it do that, because it's conversational in nature and it has this vast database of information, just like ChatGPT has this vast information of data, we have curated business information. What is curated business information? This is news about companies, this is financial reports, this is annual reports, this is what the C level executives are talking about. Take that at a company level, take that at an individual level, and expand that at an industry level. Now you have a very good set of data to actually question. And here you can start asking questions, Tobia, of such as what are Tobia's personal growth opportunities within this company? And now I'm doing two things. I am looking at what is your future and showing you a path to your growth. And what is going to actually motivate you to move is not necessarily your corporate objective, but it's going to be the your personal objectives as well, your personal goal. Is this going? What's in it for me, right? And so the salesperson has to shift their discussion from selling their fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and showing the customer a path into the future, what's in it for them as an individual, and how can they become heroes and super salespeople or super humans in their company, um, yeah, and really advance their career. And those are things that generative AI and especially our platform XIQ actually helps you do. Right? Looks over the horizon, starts helping. And so, and the third thing I will say is that with AI, the opportunities are limitless. Everything in every industry, in every process is going to change. So, the opportunity to create net new revenue, the opportunity to create net new opportunities is far greater than going and repairing my puncture wounds. I can literally pull off the band aid and start looking at a new set of technologies and a new way of moving forward with a new psyche of how to move forward by looking into the future, because the future is infinitesimally bigger than what the past has to offer, right? And by the way, guess what? My competitors are selling fear. Their competitors are selling fear. Everybody's selling fear, and people are sick, as you said. And Matt Dixon said that they're sick of, and FOMO does not work. So it's time for us to start looking forward and start thinking about how do we help companies really harness the power of AI and capture all these net new opportunities that AI creates and generate business. So those companies that will be able to show their path, those salespeople that will be able to show their customers the path into the future of how AI is going to transform their business, are the ones that are going to succeed.
Makes sense. And so let me just focus on one thing of your answer, about the ability to, let's say, capture all the intelligence that we need and then expand and question to the customer. So basically what you're saying is that Gen AI will give the best salespeople a way to sell even better. I will give those who are not reaching maybe their numbers to at least have a structured approach and to give them the information that they probably don't want to pull by themselves on the internet. So, and how do you capture all the information? So my question is for you, based on your platform. It's like, do you issue a report? Are there any sections, structures? And also, another question is, how much time do you think a salesperson needs, thanks to the Gen AI, specifically your technology, on something else can need to to prep for a call? Because this is the biggest problem. It's like everyone thinks that salespeople don't prep, but most of us cannot prep because we really don't have time, and so we end up having terrible calls.
Beautiful. Great question as well. So, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about the platform, and then I'll come into answering like about the prep and the time and what needs to be done and how quickly it can be done. So, we've broken the platform into three stages: the individual, and when I say the individual, it's one, but it can be also a group. So, it can be a buyer committee. So, understanding the human decision making code. And there's proven behavioral science that has existed for 100 years. The specific method we use is called DISC personality assessment. You may have heard of Myers Briggs, and Challenger advocates this, for example, in their methodology. Go to the motivator, the mobilizers, and so on. They've identified individuals, but not unless you're really, really well trained and your intuition levels are really good, and you can look across the computer screen, because now I'm not going to your office, I'm just meeting you on a Zoom call with a fake background behind me. This is not fake, but in reality, if this was a fake background, um, there's very little ways for me to pick up the signals that will help me build that personal relationship. So we went, and one of the things we do is we XIQ pulls on the digital footprint. This could be your LinkedIn, this could be your Twitter, this could be what you're saying on social media, takes the keywords, interprets them, and predicts the personality type of the person that you're going to sell. This is the kind of keystone and the cornerstone of what we do. This sets the stage of how we start personalizing. This also sets the stage when I combine that with career path of that individual. I can now know what are the future growth opportunities for that individual in the job they're doing. Already a big hurdle is solved right there. Second is around companies. Just getting information on companies, what's happening, I have to go read annual reports. I have to go to their website. I have to go to their investor relations. I have to read what the analysts are saying. Um, if I'm really in large ticket B2B sales, I have to do a lot of research. And quite frankly, to your point earlier, salespeople either don't have the time or they don't have the skills to know how. They're not researchers, they're sellers, right? So how, and then you have people in the back sitting somewhere doing research called growth intelligence teams feeding that information, and I don't have time to read a 50-page PowerPoint about the strategic positioning of a company that McKinsey might have done, right? And that's already obsolete. So what we did is we've combined all that company information into one place as well. So in XIQ, you can look up a company, you can see not only their news, you can see what their C-level executives are, what they're talking about, their annual reports, their financial standings, and because of Gen AI, also predicting their SWOT analysis and their pain points and their opportunities. This is net new. Just think about it. SWOT analysis is a must have for sales: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. How many people do it? Almost 0%. Why? Because I don't have the skills to do it. Now, let me come fast forward to what XIQ does. So first, we created these corpa, right? Plural of corpus is corpa, and the first corpa is around the personality of the individual. This includes the personality, this includes their career history, this includes their education, and their behavior, right? How will they make decisions? Second thing that we've done is I'm really, really sorry. I'm sitting very close to a door, so it's making a lot of noise. I really apologize for that. Second thing it does is that it is the company curated information, which is all this information. So already, if I were to do a manual search, right, it saves me a lot of time instead of me jumping to 10 different places and ending up looking at an ad and ending up buying sneakers or jeans or travel to some place. I can actually do research in one undisturbed environment. So that's very, very important. And now with generative AI, it's a matter of just asking. It's a prompt. And so the next question you have is, okay, but I'm same reason that I'm not doing my SWOT analysis, same reason I'm not writing a business case, same reason I don't have a network of people. I don't know how to write prompts either. But XIQ goes a little bit further. We have written these prompts for you. So we have a thing called the prompt library. And within the prompt library, you can pick up a prompt and you can simply add company name or person name, and then our AI chatbot, which we call Gilroy, does the rest. And the last part of your question was, how long does it take? 10 seconds, my friend, 10 seconds. And this kind of structured set of answers, I can build an account plan, an automated account plan. We call this smart account plan in less than 10 minutes. And it's a 30-page PowerPoint which tells me a complete analysis on financials, on my competition, on my growth opportunity, on my challenges. It aligns my solutions to those challenges. It writes a business case with tangible evidence, citing the sources where it picked up that information. Think about that. 10 minutes to do all of that, right? And so we have really, this is the generative AI advantage that salespeople have, right? I was talking to a customer yesterday. I said, how long does it take you to do an account plan? They said, forever. Can you ever do it? No. Is your management happy with it? No. Imagine taking that situation and reducing it to less than 10 minutes. Second, email writing, right? Most of the emails you get are cookie cutter. Hey, Tobia, did you look at this email I sent you 2 weeks ago? Are you that person? Can you introduce me to that person? How annoying is that? Right? I expect the salesperson selling to know selling to me know everything about me, everything. Where I went to school, what are my favorite teams, what sports and what are my hobbies, what do I like to eat. That's what makes a good salesperson. And this is just not possible. Now, fast forward to XIQ and what we're doing with generative AI, this is a matter of seconds away. So all these prompts are built, all this information is together, and again, to level that playing field between the first 1% and the rest of the 99%, this is the tool that comes up, and it does it in very short periods of time without you having to gain an MBA or skills of an analyst to figure out what needs to be done, right? So it's seconds, my friend, versus never being able to get it done.
That's a good answer, and thanks, Usman. So, basically, among all the benefits you think that Gen AI offers, it's basically replaces the time that these people don't have to make the research and collect the right information, and then allows them more time to sell at the personal level. So basically, you cut the research time, you got the prompts, you got the insight, so you have more time not only to, let's say, lead with insights if we are selling into the future looking state of things, but also to sell more at the personal level, because as you said, there is what's in it for me as a person, but there are also the fears of that person who has to make a decision, who needs to be managed. The fact that probably in the past he chose another solution and he still owes the responsibility for that solution in place, which is not enough. So I totally understand that. The question is, and this is related to the insights, to the insight part, because what worked for me was, as you said, the emails, most of them don't make sense. It's just like, hey, can you please look at me? Hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. While indeed, the most important thing for emailing, also cold emailing, is to lead with an insight. At least it gives you the possibility to open the door. It gives you the, let's say, the grants, and grants you the possibility of speaking to someone, allows you to speak, and even if you're wrong, you can shift in a call to something who's right. So I'm really interested about the prompt part that you said in email. So does the tool by itself already packs the information and writes an email, or is it just like a list of prompts which I gotta pick according to
Yeah, both.
which insights I want to use?
Yeah, so both. And I'll come to the both in a second, but let me also add one other thing. So, one of the capabilities of our tool is to infuse or incorporate the personality or the EQ, the emotional part of selling into this, because we know the personality, we know what you like, we know what words you like, we know how, you know, should we send you a lot of information or very little information, should this sound very exciting with big verbose words, or should this be very simple language, right? So that's a very important thing. And one of the capabilities we have is that we can upload a list. Our engine takes that list, breaks it down into the four main category types: dominant, influencing, steady, conscientious. And then you write one copy of email, and I'll come to writing that copy of email. You write one copy of email and it distributes it into those four personality types with different subjects, with different copy now, right? And when it does that, what we have noticed is that whereas our open rates used to be between 8 to 12%, they're now between 48 to 60%. So 6 to 5x greater engagement, just because the subject matter, the subject on the line got a was much more appropriate to my personality, and I would open that. And then the ability to click through is 12x, because now I start reading it and you will get a different email from the email I will get, right? And so the, based on our personality types, and therefore the likelihood of it appealing to me is higher, and therefore me taking pressing on that call to action is greater. So the meetings or the demos that we want to book has grown by 12x, because we're sending out these highly personalized emails, and because those emails resonate, the subject line resonates and the content resonates, and when the content and the subject line resonates, we have the opportunity of now getting more call to action. Your question was that how do you write these emails? Do I have, so there are two ways of writing these emails. You can go in and you can say, please write an email to Tobia introducing XIQ's sales accelerator tool, highlight the value proposition. And this is a prompt. Only things that you're entering in there are the name of the company and the name of the product, right? Or the name of the person you're writing to. The other thing that it can do is that we have this thing called the document hub. This is really interesting, in where I can upload, or the company can upload, their own marketing collateral, their product descriptions, their white papers, their case studies. And here's a very interesting thing that happens when you uploaded them into XIQ's document hub versus that of a traditional document management system. XIQ vectorizes this. Now, what is vectorization versus text based search? When you vectorize it, the text becomes numerical values. Large language models work on numerical values. That's how you can communicate. You write in English, it takes it into numerical values, queries it, brings back, responds back to you in English. That's how that happens. Traditional text based content management systems don't do that, right? So you can look at your library, but your library is dumb. It's got books sitting on the wall. You cannot digitize and query that. In the case of XIQ, the library is intelligent, and you can go into each and every book, and you have this master librarian, so to speak, that knows what's in every book and can compose an answer and give it to you, right? So that's really, really important. So the first way of writing it is just put in your document, upload your document, write about the company, say, hey, highlight the pain points, highlight XYZ on this, and voila, um, let's get a response. Or the way I like to do it is I write an email. It's a pretty crappy email. I just write, hey, tell Tobia about sales accelerator, highlight that it's got the emotional part to it, highlight this. And it comes back and writes a beautiful, well crafted, grammatically correct, proper English. Or we can do this in 144 different languages. That's another thing. We can do it in Korean, we can do it in Chinese, we can do it in just about any language. It writes it in their language and gives it to me. Now think about that, right? What an advantage I have. I have, most salespeople have writer's block, putting it politely, right? They have writer's block. They can't sit there. I've already taken you, or they can't write good emails. I have, just by giving you this, I have said, infuse the company insights, infuse the market insight, infuse the personal insights, and write about my product. Four things. And it's done that in less than 5 seconds. Less than 5 seconds. And it's given me that. And that's the advantage of AI. That's why we need to look at those antiquated, rusted technology platforms that we currently have and rethink about what we need to do in how we sell. How do we make it more personal and human?
Thanks for the answer, Usman. And now we are talking about future, and you are, working on this future-looking platform, which is, around exists but looks into the future. And my question for you is, due to how you believe that the sales world will change, okay? Based on that, which characteristics do you think will be crucial for salespeople in the future? Because now we're cutting the research time, we're cutting the copywriting, we're cutting a lot of stuff which made some people popular. But now I want to know from you, okay, all this is done by GenAI. Who will be the best salespeople in 10 years' time?
Beautiful question. You got great questions. I love your questions. They're really on the point. So I think that's very, very appropriate as well. So I was talking to a sales leader in one of the large computer hardware companies, and they said, look, I wear two hats. I wear the hat of a data scientist. I'm always analyzing what's happening in my pipeline, what's happening in the market, what are signals I should be picking up and reacting to. And I also wear my sales hat. So I think the salesperson and there's a third dimension, by the way, due to which a lot of the seasoned salespeople have left the industry, which is it's gone virtual. It's a television broadcast now, right? We're here on screens talking. So I think a couple of things that come out that define the characteristics of the new person, right? It's not that flashy guy that goes and makes you feel really great, Well, you know what? I'm not meeting you anymore. Buyers don't want to meet sellers. They're doing their research online. They're probably more well prepared than any seller is, and they know the market better, and they can ask very intimate questions. So how do I play into that space? So first of all, need to be able to come to terms with how you engage in a virtual environment, your presentation, right? So today, the young people in my sales organization, we have a lot of young people selling in our company, have that round circular light. They have a good mic. They have good cameras. They know how to look. They know what the angles are. They know how to position themselves in front of a camera, and they're great broadcasters. Second, information knowledge has always been power and will continue to be power. So that we drink our own champagne, we use our tool all the time, we do the research, and we do it in seconds, and we go into a meeting knowing everything about our prospects. So we're not asking stupid questions like, hey, what do you do? What are your main pain points? Who are your main competitors? Where do you think you're going to go? We know those. So we are actually moving into leading direction. Conversationalism is very important. Empathy has always been an important aspect of sales, but empathy for salespeople in the physical dimension has been mostly just being quiet, listening, right? But empathy has to be a little bit, if you need to drive big sales, you need to drive them. You can't be just sitting there and listening only. You need to also be able to add value. You need to have, the ability to say, hey, did you? So, just this vectorization concept I just told you about, right? So, we have clients that are doing document management. And I told them this. And suddenly their eyes lit up. Wow, we did not know. And therefore, now I think I have a new dimension in terms of what my product should be doing and how it can do. So I went from being a seller to being a valuable value contributor to that. And that's a very important thing, that salespeople need to shift gears and become value contributors. And you become value contributors when you are able to use tools. That brings up the next question, which is, who are those people that can use tools? Who are the people? And these are different people. These are people that are much more detailed oriented. They're not broad brushstroke, make you feel good guys. They're people that are much more. So the extroverted salesperson that used to be the definition of a salesperson changes now, and it becomes much more of a researcher, analyst mindset that can come into play, and that's a big shift, right? So, the best people that I have used in sales and marketing are people that have come from the product into pre-sales into sales, and the reason, because they know exactly what's going on, and because they know what the product is and what the market is, they can position themselves a lot better in a much more convincing manner, and they can say, no, I don't want to sell you this thing because it's not ready for market at this time. That's how you earn trust, not sell, 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 fear, 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 you know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, I'm out of the equation. That does not work anymore, right? I have to be able to build a value centric relationship with my prospect. It's not just one prospect, it's multiple prospects. So for the chief financial officer, I need to give them the finance version of this. For the engineering person, I need to give the engineering. For the data privacy, I need to be able to address that. And salespeople today are not doing that. One other thing I will add, this is somewhat controversial and kind of interesting. I'd love to hear from you once you've spoken about this. Sales today is fragmented across different jobs. You have the SDR, you have the account rep, you have the global account director, you have the marketing person, you have a field marketing person, and you're being handed over as a client amongst that, all those people. Not a good experience. I'm talking to you, then I'm talking to her, then I'm talking to him, then I'm talking to somebody else over there, and I'm lost in the sauce. And I'm always having that first conversation. Who are you? What do you do? How do you define yourself? What are your pain points, etc.? I'm sick of that, right? So sales needs to get consolidated into one equation. That's where we started from. That's where it comes back. The reason we broke this up is because there was so much information in the in the pipe and on the internet that was not humanly possible. But again, that's where AI comes in. It analyzes it, and in seconds, it brings it to you right on your fingertips for you to react and respond to that. So, the next generation salesperson, another attribute of this person is going to be the ability to handle the roles of the SDR. Yes, there will be pre-sales solution engineers that will come and support you, but this account executive has to own that relationship all the way through to client success and even beyond, because once they move into the client success part, you have upsell opportunities. And the reason they can't do this today is because they're really caught up because of the time factor and the research factor and the skill factor, and those skills will change. Interestingly enough, yeah, so that's pretty much what I would say. I think those are the four five attributes. Data scientist, detail oriented, somebody who's good on the screen, and somebody who's able to become a value added partner with their prospects.
Thanks for the answer. I think it's a good point because, as you said, I talked more than once about the SDR BDR role by itself. And don't get me wrong, I've been a BDR at the beginning of my career. I've been an ISR. So basically, I've done prospecting, then prospecting plus up and cross selling. And then I ended up having my own, let's say, full sales job. And I think that we're going back to the full sales job because as you said, for sure you need a solution consultant or pre-sales person, as you want to call it. For sure you need the moment of to hand over the account to CS, but also when you hand over the account, you gotta stay on top of the account because otherwise you don't untap any good new opportunity, and that's the thing. And on these, you see me, I'm totally up for this. So the question is, will SDR BDRs disappear with AI, Usman? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure they will disappear, but they will definitely. The nature of how they do their business 100% changes, right? It's not a consultative, hey, tell me what's going on type of a discussion. Another thing that, for example, our tool can do is it can find the sales alignment between the prospect and the seller. So if somebody is calling and I have a bank of SDRs that's going to be responding, I can direct the dominant person's call to the steady person because they get along really well. I can move the influencer to the conscientious salesperson because they get along very well. So the matchmaking of buyer to seller can be improved, and that can happen in the SDR role. Secondly, SDR has the same advantages of information and communication. Gen AI can write a call script for me that is much more suitable for that particular personality type that I'm going to be talking to. So the role not necessarily disappears, but it becomes a lot more refined, much more sophisticated, and maybe the type of person who's going to do SDR changes also as a result of that.
That's a good point because I had a chat with David Brock, the author of the Sales Manager Survival Guide, about this thing because he said, I hired four SDRs, BDRs, I pay them 500,000 per year, and they are senior salespeople who are able to have constant conversations with companies and then to generate opportunities because now the prospecting and pipeline phase is way much more complex than it was in the past, and it's extremely difficult. I think this is what you re- refer to with your last answer, like these will become a more sophisticated role. I think that the more we will need information, the more senior SDRs and BDRs we will need. Probably access people, they call them evangelists, however they want to call them. But that's the key because at the end of the day, if we also take a look at conversation, who are the best prospectors? C levels, CPOs, CEOs, chief customer officers. They're the best one in generating pipeline. Why? Because they're seasoned, they're senior, they know what's going on, and they can have sophisticated conversations. And so let's say that the model is flipped. Now, I think that we are almost at the end of the interview, and I really thank you for being here, Usman. I have just last questions. One last question. Let's say once, like a series of questions, because I'm a sales guy, so I have a lot of questions. I want to know the future plans, the objectives, what you want to achieve with XIQ, because you are working on something which is really unique. And so, where do you picture yourself? I don't know, in 5 years' time, where do you picture XIQ? What do you want to see happening in the sales world?
Yeah. So I'm a very firm believer that sales is an excellent profession. However, unfortunately, it has fallen into the hands of wrong people, bad habits, bad ways of doing things. It's become stale. Okay. So my passion with sales, which is why I formed XIQ in my mind almost 10 years ago, and then we came out in 2018. Um, and the reason for that was that um, I think that this profession can be improved. There's a lot of room for improvement in this profession. So my passion with XIQ is to really elevate the game of the salespeople. Take some of the best things that they really need to do. And one of the big things that needs to happen in sales, and David Brock actually talks a lot about this, is business acumen, right? Business acumen is not something you can easily teach, right? It's not an MBA course called Business Acumen and you learn. It's a series of things that happen that come together. And those series of things today, AI can make happen because we have formulas, we have prompts, we have ways of bringing that information in a structured manner, in a guided procedure where I can use those to at least project business acumen to become much more convincing, right? And so, in 5 years' time, where do we see this? I see the complexion and the nature of selling, or I hope, let me put it this way, to be a major catalyst and a driver in changing that complexion and nature of selling. Who sells, how they sell, the sales motion, preparedness. You know, one of the biggest, two of the biggest turnoffs for me is that when somebody calls up and asks me, "Are you the right person?" right? Or did you read my email from two? I think that's just lazy. And in today's world, where when I turn on my TV and it's making recommendations of shows, when I go anywhere online, it's making recommendations of clothes, restaurants, which are really custom tailored to me. There is no reason why that same sort of customization and personalization should not exist in the B2B world, right? So my goal is to help elevate the game. XIQ's goal is to help elevate the game. And I think and remove this fear-based selling. That's a huge passionate project of mine. Get this whole fear-based selling concept out. And in order to do that, there's deep roots of that fear-based selling in the sales profession. And so we need to eliminate those roots.
Thank you so much, Usman, for your answers and for being here. It was extremely interesting to get to know XIQ a little bit better, get to know you, and get to know your views, because I think that I interview several people, even founders of sales acceleration platform is yours, but also sales engagement platforms and so on. And I think that sales is a profession which is so difficult to transform that you need to be passionate about what you talk about. And I really perceive that passion, and I thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Tobia, for having me on your podcast. This is really exciting. I really enjoyed talking to you. I commend you. You asked really, really pointed and great questions. So I think that was excellent. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you indeed, Usman. And I hope to have you again on the show as soon as possible. Bye.
That will be my pleasure.